movies, and dolls. Here are a few of the colorful characters who inspired doll artists over the years in the merchandising of the movies.
From the farmer's market to the flea market now, old dolls from Hollywood's golden era are so valuable that collectors now believe they're a good long-term investment. Here's how to spot one at the market so you can grab it. Movie memorabilia from the 1930s and 40s is fun to collect, and Woolsey Ackerman is a Hollywood historian who's been stockpiling it for over 30 years. America Now's intern, Olivia LaVoice, paid him a visit and discovered some of his most valuable items are old movie dolls.
You've been collecting these dolls all your life. Why are they so special?
Well, they're representative of the whole history of movies, and today they are of great value. They're basically antiques.
Movies are what inspired these dolls, which originally sold for about $2, sometimes less, and boy has their value skyrocketed. These old Shirley Temple dolls are a perfect example.
Each year, when she would make a new film, Idea would costume her in all the different clothing that she wore in each of the movies.
Woolsey says his most valuable Shirley Temple doll is this one, dressed as Heidi from 1937. Today, she'd cost about $3,000 because she is so rare. Remember Judy Garland as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz? Woolsey has several dolls made in her likeness. Woolsey says this one, which is 18 inches tall, is worth over $2,500.
The identifying characteristic of the Dorothy doll, of course, is her costume and the big brown eyes.
But not all Judy Garland dolls are easy to recognize.
This one represents Judy as a teenager, and it was made in 1940.
So if you find any of these vintage dolls, don't mistake them for trash because they can be valuable. And if you do decide to display them, keep them out of direct sunlight because the ultraviolet rays can cause them to fade, and heat can cause irreversible damage.
Woolsey Ackerman is a Hollywood historian who's been collecting movie memorabilia since he was a boy. And some of his most treasured and valuable items are vintage Hollywood dolls, like Judy Garland and Shirley Temple. But the most precious and rare doll in his impressive collection is this one, Rudolph Valentino, which was created to promote his silent movie, The Eagle.
It was made by a company called La Rosa in Italy in 1925. And they did an excellent job of sculpting this doll in cloth. He is of great value, probably worth about $10,000 now.
$10,000. Woolsey says the reason this Valentino doll is so valuable is because it's hard to find nowadays, especially one that is in pristine condition like his.
It has a very elaborate costume made all of felt, lined in satin. You can see the great details.
Woolsey has verified that the doll's costume is an exact replica of the costume designed for Valentino to wear in the movie.
The costume for the movie was designed by the famous movie designer Adrian, who later would do all the costumes for The Wizard of Oz.
Woolsey says vintage dolls can be a great investment if you know how to buy them. While you can often find them at collectible doll shows, Woolsey says the best deals are usually at antique auction and estate sales.
The most famous movie doll of all time is Shirley Temple. This exhibit explored the phenomenal effect her movies and merchandising had on the American economy during the Depression. Movie merchandising started with the beginning of the movies, but the mass production of dolls and toys started early in the Depression with Walt Disney. His short films made little money in the theaters, but toys and the likeness of the characters he and his artists created made the studio profitable. When Shirley Temple was embraced by the public in a featured role in early 1934, a public craze began for her, and toy and merchandising companies quickly proposed products to the Temple family and Fox Studios. The original Shirley Temple doll was made by the Ideal Toy Company between 1934 and 1940. She eventually came in 11 sizes. She was made of all composition with human hair wig, sleep and flirty eyes, and each one was dressed in costumes from her latest film. The doll was designed by sculptor Bernard Lipfert, who sculpted most of the personality and name dolls of the 1930s. The costumes were made by Molly Goldman and Mary Bauer, and were precise recreations based on the work of the Fox and 20th Century Fox Film Studios costume designers. Mother, Gertrude Temple, oversaw the molding of the doll, and it could not be released until she approved it. The doll was ready for Christmas 1934. Here is a rare trip to the Ideal Toy Factory in late 1934, during the time the first Shirley Temple dolls were being made. Ideal provided jobs for thousands during the Depression years, 1934 to 1939. The doll was in such demand that a cottage industry also sprang up around the Long Island, New York area, as Ideal employed seamstresses to work in their homes making the doll costumes. When possible, a matching doll was featured with Shirley's own costume. Saved by Shirley's mom were her movie costumes, and displayed here are Little Miss Broadway, a gifted Asian costume, and the granny glasses from Curly Top, the Captain January opera costume, the Technicolor Little Colonel, two from The Little Princess, and her last childhood film, The Bluebird. The grouping from The Bluebird includes the rare prototype Bluebird doll. Only a few samples of this doll were made in anticipation of the release of the film. By early 1940, the Temples and 20th Century Fox had decided to part ways, and with Shirley's pending adolescence, Ideal had decided to stop making the Shirley Temple doll in late 1939. Except as an exclusive, Bluebird Shirley was never sold to the public. A group of rare Shirleys, Aviator from Bright Eyes, Captain January, Wee Willie Winkie, the Captain January school dress, the Canadian Reliable Little Colonel, and the Wooden Shoes doll from Heidi. The famous Curly Top dancing dress in sizes from smallest to largest. Doll trunks were made. Dresses came in their own boxes with their own hangers. So anticipated was the doll in 1934 that images of Shirley holding a doll with a photo of her face cut in were distributed before the doll was finished. The Shirley Temple doll sold well over 1 million units during its 6-year production period. Fortune magazine photographed the factory at work in 1936. A special doll in Western garb was created for the 1936 Texas Centennial. The last Shirley to be sold commercially was for Christmas 1939, and here is that doll with the Christmas Sears ad. The doll mold changed during the production period. The later dolls are called Makeup Shirleys. The face is more mature, and she features eyeshadow and darker cheeks. Also here are dolls for Poor Little Rich Girl, Littlest Rebel, Little Colonel, and Our Little Girl. The Whacker Our Shirley dolls were made in 1936 and did not have a license. So, 20th Century Fox put a stop to them. Original ads for the Ideal doll. The most famous and iconic Shirley Temple costume of all time, her red and white polka dot dancing costume from Stand Up and Cheer. This is the moment in movie history which made her a star. Shirley Temple and the iconic stars of the movies will continue to inspire creations by doll artists for years to come.